Next on Currents News, a final farewell for a beloved priest. Father Gioacchino Basile will return home to Italy more than 5 months after his life was taken by COVID-19.
Also ahead on Currents News, Pope Francis announces his first trip outside of Rome since the pandemic began.
Even when Catholic academies and parish schools closed, their impact and their memory forever live on. I'm Emily Drubia, and I'll show you how.
Plus, we'll speak to Brian Carroll, an evangelical Christian who is a third-party nominee running for president. The news starts right now. The Diocese of Brooklyn holding a celebration of life for a priest they held so dear. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. Father Gioacchino Basile passed away in April due to complications from COVID-19. Now his parishioners and friends are giving their pastor a final goodbye. The priest's body will be returning to his native home of Calabria, a region in southern Italy. But as Currents News' Jessica Easthope reports, his spirit will live on in the hearts of the people he served. She has the story from Carroll Gardens.
An emotional send-off for a small priest with a larger-than-life personality.
All of us know Joaquino. He was very short, a lot of problems health-wise, the diabetes, the heart, but this didn't stop him. He had to follow the Lord. I believe.
On Tuesday, a tribute for Father Gioacchino Basile was held outside of Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary and St. Stephen's Church in Carroll Gardens.
Finally, he can go back home. The Lord opens heaven for each one of us to be with him. And Joaquino, I'm sure, is now resting with the Lord.
Father Gioacchino was the second Brooklyn Diocese priest to die from COVID-19. He passed away on April 4th after contracting the virus at St. Gabriel's in East Elmhurst, where he served as pastor. Tears filled the eyes of the parishioners and friends who came to say their final goodbyes to Father Gioacchino, among them Jessie Lemma. For her, Father Gioacchino was a spiritual guide. She says his legacy will live on through all those he touched during his life.
It's just very emotional. It's a mix of feelings. We feel sad because he's dead, he's gone, but then at the same time, we're happy that we were able to give him a celebration, a goodbye, a thank you for all his efforts, for all his dedication, and for all his love.
After the memorial, Father Joaquino was taken to John F. Kennedy Airport to make his final journey back to Calabria, more than 5 months after his passing.
It's been 5 months. Italy obviously being heavily hit by COVID. There were embargoes placed on exports of any type from the United States. Father Joaquino going back to Calabria, we needed to be able to book him a flight from Rome to Calabria, which did not exist until recently.
Father Gioacchino's brother and sister will be waiting for him in Calabria when his body lands. They will hold a funeral mass for him on Friday. In Carroll Gardens, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
On the day New York City teachers returned to work, some were told to stay home. The Department of Education has closed 10 buildings that house 21 schools because of poor ventilation. They will remain closed until repairs are completed. Teachers and staff in those buildings will work remotely until the DOE gives the green light to return. Teachers are now preparing for the new school year. Classes start on September 21st. In a tweet today, Mayor Bill de Blasio says the Department of Education is working tirelessly, thoroughly, and thoughtfully to reopen. He went on to say that ventilation inspections are completed for all 1,485 buildings and that 96% of classrooms have passed inspection. Ending with a quote, "Here is our pledge to you. If a classroom isn't safe, it won't be used, period." Meanwhile, nearly 2 million students across the country started school today, but most are learning remotely. For those returning to the classrooms, the concern, of course, is about keeping them safe during the continuing coronavirus pandemic. Diane Gallagher reports.
It's the first day of school for over 1.8 million students. But for those attending 14 of the nation's 16 largest school districts opening today, classes will be held entirely online. The American Academy of Pediatrics reported over 70,000 new cases in children over the 2 weeks ending August 27th. That's an increase of 17%. And while grade schools evaluate the safest way to begin the academic year, Some college towns are already turning into coronavirus hotspots. In upstate New York, SUNY Oneonta reported at least 651 cases since the start of the semester. And at Iowa State, at least 900 students tested positive since August 1st. At the University of New Hampshire, a cluster of cases has been linked to a fraternity party attended by more than 100 people.
So we're concerned about any other individuals who may have been attending events there or visiting their friends at this location, just because we know that there have been at least 11 people who have tested positive.
That risk? Why NYU says it suspended 20-plus students for violating the university's health and safety guidelines. This as health experts fear celebrations and crowds over Labor Day weekend could fuel another round of dangerous spikes as seen over Memorial Day and the 4th of July holidays.
We're not in a sprint. It's very, very important that we continue to have all the social distancing, mask wearing, avoiding large groups. We're all very concerned that the behaviors this weekend will be an accelerant and spread COVID virus even further. Flu is on the way. That will double the danger.
President Trump once again implying a vaccine could be ready by November.
So we're going to have a vaccine very soon, maybe even before a very special date. You know what date I'm talking about.
But health experts say there is no guaranteed timeline, emphasizing that delivering a safe and effective preventative is key.
Really hopeful that we will have a vaccine by either year end or by early next year. But the key thing about the process for getting a vaccine is that it has to be driven by science and scientists, not by political or figures or by political timelines.
Again, that was Diane Gallagher reporting. Diocese of Brooklyn schools are set to open tomorrow. Be sure to tune into Currents News for full coverage as school bells ring early tomorrow morning. Turning now to big news from the Holy See. Pope Francis is set to leave the Vatican for the first time since the pandemic took hold. The Holy Father will travel to Assisi on October 3rd to sign a new papal document called an encyclical. The document is on the social, political, and economical obligations that arise from the belief that we are all children of God. The pontiff spoke about criticizing others during his weekly Angelus, saying the act is worse than the coronavirus.
Il chiacchiericcio è una peste più brutta del Covid, più brutta. Facciamo uno sforzo, niente chiacchiere, e le chiacchiere chiudono il cuore alla comunità.
Pope Francis went on to say the Christian approach is to speak to someone about their mistakes without judgment. The chairman of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops is calling on the White House and Congress to reach a deal on COVID relief that meets the urgent needs of the nation. Members of Congress returned to Capitol Hill today after the August recess to work on breaking the partisan stalemate over a second relief package.
I'm more optimistic perhaps today than I've been in a long time.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell setting the stage for a vote on a new version of the Republican COVID stimulus bill as soon as this week. Meanwhile, the medical community is bracing for flu season, which this fall is on a collision course with the COVID-19 pandemic. But as John Lawrence reports, doctors have some simple advice for everyone.
Americans are advised to roll up their sleeves and get a flu shot this year.
The fall and the winter of 2020 and 2021 are going to be probably one of the most difficult times that we've experienced in American public health.
That's because of a double threat, the flu and COVID-19. Although some parts of the U.S. are seeing new coronavirus cases drop.
Unfortunately, we're already at a much higher level than we were in the weeks before the July 4th holiday. So I don't think it'll take much to really bring us back up to 70,000 new cases a day.
Medical experts are working on a COVID-19 vaccine, and the White House says it may be ready before the end of the year.
We're going to have a vaccine very soon, maybe even before a very special date. You know what date I'm talking about.
Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden is leery about the president's claim.
He said so many things that aren't true. I'm worried if we do have a really good vaccine, people are going to be reluctant to take it.
Experts say a vaccine is unlikely before 2021, and health officials stress the importance of staying vigilant.
Many of the physical distancing and public health and social measures that have been put in place, which keeps people apart, may have actually played a role in reducing circulation of influenza.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
New York City Controller Scott Stringer has officially announced that he's running for mayor. Stringer has been controller since 2014. Before that, he was Manhattan Borough president. He has also served the state assembly representing the Upper West Side. Stringer joins former New York City Veterans Affairs Commissioner Lori Sutton, who has already thrown her hat into the ring. Mayor de Blasio's second term comes to an end in 2022. More than 100 Catholic schools nationwide shut down this year because of declining tuition revenue coupled with the economic downturn brought on by the pandemic. Here in the diocese, a half dozen Catholic academies closed their doors this August. Currents News' Emily Druby visited Holy Trinity Catholic Academy in Whitestone with a former student who tells us what the school meant to her and why Catholic education needs to beat the coronavirus crisis.
So because I was being in alphabetical order, I was the first lineup.
Maureen Reichert stands in the classroom of her past, a bittersweet moment now that the school is closed. Holy Trinity Catholic Academy. She was in their very first class in 1967, one of 63 students.
We had no doors, blackboards, yes, no closets.
But it's what they did have that stuck with Maureen. Strong teachers, a tight-knit community, and a lifelong commitment to her faith.
It has truly formed me, this school.
She even sent her 2 kids here, but now just a few pieces of furniture and empty bulletin boards remain. Part of her forever gone.
What is it like to see it like this?
It's really sad. It's a fact of life. I know it's financial issues.
Holy Trinity was one of 6 Catholic academies in the Diocese of Brooklyn to close on August 31st. The pandemic taking the school's final breath, decimating their enrollment and finances. This disappointing trend is being seen around the country. 140 Catholic schools have had to permanently close because of the pandemic, according to the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. They warn that hundreds more could be in danger without federal help. But Maureen, in her pastor, Father Joseph Giubino, explains for the faithful, Catholic schools are essential because they help instill a lifelong love for God.
Families are the first witnesses of faith, as Maureen said. Her family witnessed the faith for her. Faculty members witness faith and dedication.
And what are your values? What do you really want for your child? And I always felt that that's what I wanted. I wanted the day to start with prayer and end with prayer.
And a lifelong community, one Maureen especially felt after losing her mom 10 years ago.
All these people from Holy Trinity were there, and it's like so comforting. And I think we miss that now. So this has been my base for life.
Maureen is urging all families to keep sending their children to Catholic schools. While the Holy Trinity School might now be closed, its memory and the impact it had on alumni will forever live on. In Whitestone, Queens, Emily Druby, Currents News.
There's a lot more news headed your way. It's an unprecedented disaster. The raging wildfires out west scorching millions of acres. Crews now racing to save people surrounded by flames. Plus, President Trump once again taking aim at Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio over their handling of the pandemic. And we'll hear from an evangelical Christian who's running for president on a third-party line, the message he wants to send to voters.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/send us, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
It's a tale of fire and ice on the West Coast as both wildfires and record heat waves ravage California. Denver residents are now shoveling snow just a few days after experiencing their own record heat. Whitney Wild tells us more.
Wild weather across the West.
We just figured the family would just stay together. So we just hunkered down together.
Fire and ice colliding in Colorado. Crews battling the Cameron Peak fire, which has burned almost 90,000 acres, got an assist overnight from Mother Nature as a cold front dumped rain and snow on the Centennial State.
Let her snow. I hope it puts it out.
In California, helicopter crews rescued at least 13 people trapped by the fast-moving Creek Fire. In total, more than 200 people have been airlifted to safety after flames engulfed more than 135,000 acres northeast of Fresno. What's worse, the Creek Fire is just one of at least 22 wildfires raging in the state. In Southern California, pyrotechnics at a gender reveal party sparked the El Dorado fire that has since burned almost 10,000 acres.
It's so important for people to do things or to stop doing things, not do things that could cause a spark.
In Washington, a fast-moving firestorm Monday night destroyed nearly 80% of structures in the town of Malden.
Everything gone. Clothes, beds, everything.
Dry and hot conditions into Wednesday are prompting officials to issue red flag warnings in 6 western states, covering 38 million people. I'm Whitney Wild reporting.
The police chief in Rochester, New York, has resigned in the wake of the death of Daniel Prude. Prude's death has sparked days of protests since police released footage last week of the incident that happened back in March. Prude, a black man, died of asphyxiation after officers pinned him to the ground while restraining him. State Attorney General Letitia James is setting up a grand jury to consider evidence in the death of Prude. President Donald Trump is slamming Governor Andrew Cuomo and Mayor Bill de Blasio for not opening indoor dining. This morning, the commander-in-chief writing this tweet saying New York City must stop the shutdown now. The governor and mayor are destroying the place. He later went on to say that the day after the election, Democrats will open up their states. And he also took aim at Pentagon leaders.
I'm not saying the military is in love with me. The soldiers are. The top people in the Pentagon probably aren't.
President Trump saying Pentagon leaders, quote, want to do nothing but fight wars to make companies that make the bombs happy. The president's relationship with military officials has been strained since he threatened to use troops to help law enforcement during the protests after George Floyd's death. The Democratic presidential candidate, Catholic Joe Biden, says he's praying for a vaccine after hearing President Trump touted it may come before Election Day.
He said so many things that aren't true. I'm worried if we do have a really good vaccine, people are going to be reluctant to take it. And so he's undermining public confidence. But pray God we have it. If I could get a vaccine tomorrow, I'd do it. If it cost me the election, I'd do it.
One biotech firm is confident that their vaccine could be ready as early as the middle of October. The firm has partnered with Pfizer to create the treatment. Election Day is exactly 8 weeks from today, and one of the candidates is hoping his name is on the ballot.
Are you tired of choosing the lesser of two evils? Vote for someone who has spent a lifetime living your values.
Brian Carroll, an evangelical Christian, is the presidential nominee of the American Solidarity Party, a small political party largely in line with Catholic social teaching. So, Brian, tell us, what is your party's platform? There are conservative and liberal leanings, and I know it's pro-life, but not just when it comes to abortion. Tell us about it.
We are absolutely pro-life for the whole life, which means we're not just interested in abortion, we're also interested in assisted suicide. We want to do the kinds of things that are conducive to life at every level by everybody.
All right, now some people might argue that you're wasting your time running for president, that either Donald Trump or Joe Biden will be elected. I know you don't think you'll actually win, so what's the point of your candidacy?
I think if voters vote for something they don't want, then even if their person they vote for wins, they haven't really won. There are a lot of people in both parties that would like to steer their parties in a different direction. And we are actually in support of people in both parties who are trying to do that. And so we're giving those people a place that they can vote and express their frustration with the existing parties. And hopefully both parties will do some correction.
So what is your response to people who say a vote for you takes a vote away from one of the major party candidates?
In most of our states, of course, that's not true. Mm-hmm. I'm in California. Hillary Clinton beat Trump by over 4 million votes. And I voted for Mike Maturin, the American Solidarity Party candidate in 2016. And he got 1,500 votes, more or less, in California. Next to Hillary's 8 million something and Trump's 4 million something, if you voted for one of those other two candidates, your vote just got lost in the pool. If you voted for Mike Maturin, people said, oh, hey, look, here's a group of people voting for something else.
Brian Carroll, the American Solidarity Party's candidate for president. Good luck.
Thank you.
Still to come on Currents News, we're hearing from Pope Benedict for the first time since the death of his brother in July. And from fear to friendship, the story of one little boy and the cop who's changing his life. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. We're hearing from Pope Benedict for the first time since the death of his brother. The 93-year-old Pope Emeritus wrote an open letter thanking everyone for the affection he received after his brother died on July 1st. He says he didn't expect so many letters of support and was deeply moved by them. Benedict says he regrets not personally responding to each one due to a case of shingles. Pope Francis is looking forward to World Youth Day. Preparations are underway for the big event scheduled to take place in Portugal in 2023. The bishops of Portugal have put together a team that's working behind the scenes. World Youth Day in Lisbon was supposed to happen in 2022, but is being postponed because of the COVID crisis. And finally tonight, a young boy in South Carolina told his mom he was scared of the police. So his mom turned that fear into friendship. Emily Wakeman has the story.
I felt kind of scared, nervous, I was afraid.
8-year-old Gavin Williamson says he was scared of law enforcement before meeting Deputy Carrie Shelton last week.
He said, "Mommy, I don't want to get stopped because I'm scared I'm going to get shot."
That's when his mom, Ashton Williamson, says she saw Deputy Shelton's cruiser on the side of the road and decided to pull over.
To make sure that whenever he does get to the point of being pulled over, that he doesn't have to be fearful.
And she told me the whole story about him being scared, and she wants them to know that, you know, not all cops are bad cops. We have a lot of good cops.
Deputy Shelton says that's when a new friendship formed.
So we got to talking about food, and then he offered me his rice, and it melted my heart. So I was like, can I give him a hug?
From that point on, you know, he's made it his duty to check on Gavin, converse with us, you know, just to make sure we're good. If we have any questions.
See this?
Gavin says he now sees law enforcement in a different light.
A good cop.
Why is that?
Because he protects people.
And not only does Gavin have a new friend, but also a new dream job.
And now he says he wants to be a cop when he gets older.
The same type of cop as Deputy Shelton.
Good cop.
Again, that was Emily Wakeman reporting. After forming his friendship with Gavin, Deputy Shelton says the Sheriff's Department is inviting anyone who wants to meet a law enforcement officer to stop by. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.